Welcome back to the Wellness Wire. This is episode number 10. Double digits. Look at us go. Can you believe that? 10 episodes in. I'm joined with Wade, as always, and we've got a special guest, Will. Will, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello everybody, my name is William. My sobriety date is April 5th of 2018. Originally from Minnesota, just like Wade over here. Not really entirely sure about how his journey ended up in Arizona, but mine was something made for movies. Been out here, or I was out here from 2018 until 2024. Just recently moved to Ohio for work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, no, we're super happy to have you, dude. When you reached out, we're like 100%. We got to get him on the pod because, guys, this is a great opportunity to get some real life insight into what it looks like to not only move across the country to go to treatment, build a recovery community, but then also move back across the country in recovery and reestablish yourself in a new area and still maintain your sobriety. So we're gonna get a lot of insight into what that looks like and pick Will's brain, but before we get into all of that, I think to add some context to the story, we're gonna ask him to just share a little bit about what brought him out to Arizona, how he built a life in recovery out here, and then eventually what took him, across the country to Ohio. So go ahead, man.
All right, man. Thank you. I think my addiction started at 15. I started using ecstasy and all of the things that allowed me to escape my insecurities. I think that's what brings a lot of us into it and it's funny, I always mention like in AA, I did the same thing that I did in addiction, right? Is I found the guys that I wanted to be like and I just did what they did. And it was like at the time, man, it was all the football players and all like the good kids, like they were the ones doing ecstasy and being cool and hanging out with the girls and like they had what I wanted, so I did what they did. And I actually did not come to Arizona to get sober. I came to Arizona with the plan to just continue being a felonious POS, and when I got here, God had a different plan, right?
Wow.
I'd been homeless on and off, and not truly. I could always go home, but the problem was Mom had rules against what I wanted to do, so it was better to just kick it in the streets. So, but I mean, I've slept in a tent when it's like 40 below zero.
Wow.
But like, dude, I came to Arizona and this heat beat me into a submission in like 10 days.
It's brutal.
You can't escape.
Yeah, man.
Like, shout out to anybody that's like homeless and kicking it, and I can't even fathom. That 10 days, dude, I was sitting in my minivan, baking like a tortilla inside that son of a gun. Just hot, dude.
And
like,
then you add like all the dehydration and like malnourishment for that comes with just being in active addiction. Like I couldn't imagine it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. And I mean, when I got here, I called my dad, who I had a very rocky relationship with, but he provided my insurance. And I was like, Dad, I need help. And it was the first time in 10, 12 years that I ever asked for help. Like, dude, I never called my mom and dad when I was in jail. I was just like, I got myself here, I'm not calling them. Like, too much pride and ego, right? They always showed up, right? I always had that asshole friend that would call my mom and be like, Will's in jail again.
Snitch.
Yeah, snitching.
How dare they care about you, bro?
Exactly. Right? At the time, I was always livid. But I continue to see, even in my sobriety, that like when I make plans, God laughs. I mean, it literally happens every day. Like, it's seriously, like if I had $1 for a day, I would make more money probably on the amount of times that I try to set a plan and like it just goes awry. And whether it's by happenstance or my own mess ups or other people not doing as they said they were gonna do.
Yeah.
But like I came out here to just continue to be an idiot, and God placed me in a place where I could meet Him for the first time in desperation.
Wow. And so did you go to treatment?
I did.
Okay.
So I remember like I walked into CBI and there was like 6 dudes and I had more teeth than all of them combined. And again, pride and ego stood in my way. I was like, I'm better than these guys. I walked right out the front doors. I'm like, I'm not going there. I ended up at Chandler Valley Hope though. And I mean, I had a very powerful, it wasn't like Bill Wilson's like fell out of bed and saw Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus gave him a story of what to follow. It wasn't like quite like that. But I prayed for the first time. And I make this joke in meetings sometimes. I'd be like, man, the last time that I remember praying was on my Game Boy Color, like asking, Jesus, if I can catch this Pokemon, I swear I'll pray every day. But like as an adult, I knew enough about religion and God to know he wanted nothing to do with the business that I was attending. And I mean, in hindsight, he was always there, and he was always watching my dirty business, and he was always saving my ass from myself. Because the truth is, if life were fair, I should be dead or in prison. Like I tip that scale into ugliness every day, hundreds of times a day for most of my life. But when I was in rehab, I kept having night terrors because, I mean, as we can all attest to, trauma is a big binder between all of us in recovery, and whether it's trauma as a child that brings us into drugs and alcohol, or whether it's while we're in the addiction and we go through more trauma. My solution to trauma was always external paint.
Yeah.
Just put makeup on the pig. Every time I'd go through a traumatic event, just go get loaded, not have to think about it, until you get so loaded that it's all you can think about. Put you in that trauma loop. But I kept having night terrors, and my therapist kept telling me to pray about it. And I was like, dude, just give me the medication. Like, I know there's a medication for this, just give me the medication. He's like, no, man, I think we're gonna pray about it. And I was just so stubborn. And I finally got down on my knees. On the 7th day, oddly enough, he wrote surrender and permanent marker on the back of my hands. And he was actually my therapist up until I moved out of state. Patrick Varney, hell of a man. He's still, he got his own private practice now, but he wrote surrender on the back of my hands, and he's like, William, I need you to get on your knees and pray tonight. He's like, I don't care what it is, I don't care how it looks, I don't care what it sounds like. I said, but what do I even call it? And he said, it doesn't care what you call it as long as you call out to it. And like that, I could get behind, right? Because like in my previous delusion, I was like, Sky Daddy wants nothing to do with me. Just, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just this dirty little street kid that like God's never looked out for me, but he always has. And I prayed that night, and I haven't had a night terror since. I don't really think and I woke up, like, I hadn't slept for more than an hour and a half the entire time that I was in treatment, and that night I slept for like 10 hours. And like, I woke up, dude, and I was like, holy crap. Like that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe it was a fluke, right? But here we are almost 7 years later, and I still haven't. And I mean, there's been a lot of therapy and EMDR and ART and like all the other stuff that goes with treatment since then, but
And so you went to treatment, and then you were out here up until about, how long ago was that? About like 6 months ago, 7 months? And you built quite a network in life and, and career in recovery. Everything's based out here in Phoenix. Tell us about like that experience. Did you go to sober living for a certain amount of time, or?
Like I said, it was life changing. That God moment was life changing. Like anything anybody suggested that I thought might be a little bit smarter than me, I was like, yes, sir. Like, you know what I mean? I was reading 5 pages out of the book every day. I went to a meeting, and then I went to sober living, and then a week later, I hated the sober living I was in, and I actually walked into GIT, and there was this sign on the wall that said Stellar Sober Living, and there was like a pool on the picture. I was like, yeah. Called my mom. I was like, Mom, it's only $100 more a week. And you know how moms are, super skeptical. I'm pretty sure the dude that owned the previous Sober Living like refused to give my mom her money back because I was only there for a week and she paid for a month.
Oh, yeah.
And Leo's Alumni House, that was the first Sober Living I moved into.
Leo's
Alumni House.
Yeah. I don't think
there was 4 dudes in bunk beds in one and it was like 86 degrees at night, and I kept getting in trouble because I'd go downstairs and turn down the air conditioning. I'm like, dude, I'm from Minnesota. Like, I needed a little cooler.
Yeah.
But I ended up in clean and sober homes. At the time, they only had one house, 7 beds. And I mean, they were the first people in my life to ever like see opportunity in me, outside of my mom and dad, right? Like, you know how mom and dads are. They're like, oh, you have so much potential. But I mean, they just saw this little stringy, getting fat kid that was all gacked out and like had some faith in me, and they loved me until I learned how to love myself. I mean, to this day, anytime that I'm outstepping my boundaries or I'm acting a fool, like, they'll call me out on it. That's one of the greatest things I think that I've gotten from the community of Alcoholics Anonymous and Sober Living. Like, my best friend to this day was my house manager when I moved into Sober Living. Like, we still hang out every time that I come to town, and as much as they care about me, they don't really give a shit about my feelings, and I appreciate that. Like, if they see me acting a fool or like acting out of pocket, they'll call me out on it. They might not do it in front of everybody else just because, like, embarrassment doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah.
But I mean, in behind closed doors, they're like, look, dude, like, that was, you need to make amends for that, or why are you acting like that, or are you getting greedy, or is money becoming more important, or like, what are you really working on in life right now? But yeah, dude, it's the community that I built here. I mean, dude, I turned my drug dealing skills into like normal human people skills. And like, I've just created this ability to I'm a chameleon.
But Wade always calls that your superpower.
Yeah, my superpower is being a chameleon. Like, you can drop me anywhere in this world, dude, and within a couple hours I'll have phone numbers and friends and places to hang out. And you're the same way, dude. I remember the first time meeting you, like, it just kind of clicked, and I don't know if it's a Minnesota thing or if it's just a personality thing, but it's just kind of always been.
It's that Minnesota nice, dude.
Yeah. That's pretty ugly sometimes.
Well, nice to your face and don't talk about your back, you know? No. It's really good that you had, you know, people that were so supportive throughout your recovery. Bob and Christine Fox, obviously clean, sober, really good people. They've done so much for the recovery community here in Chandler and Arizona overall. And then you got the ability through them to kind of grow, like you said, how they saw something in you couldn't see in yourself. Tell us more about like that journey. Now, you know, you're starting out in a house. They have one house at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think they have 70 beds in a treatment center, and I was there for all of it. I mean, at 6 months sober, they're like, hey, we're going to open a second house. It's going to be co-ed. Do you want to be the manager? I'm like, yeah. But, I mean, like, as sick as my intentions were, right, like, it was the first time that I ever learned how to have proper boundaries with women. And to, like, have platonic relationships with women that are, like, super solid. And I think out of the 10 people that were in Sober Living with us then, Angelo got accepted into Georgetown Law.
Wow.
Since then, he's still sober. Victoria, still sober, married, 2 kids. She's a fitness guru and like social media influencer. Brittany, still sober, killing it. She works at treatment centers. Greg passed away. He was a lawyer. I think 5 or 6 of Heather, she's still sober. She's got like 7 years now. Like, out of the 10 of us, I think 6 or 7 of us are still rocking it.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible how, like, if you get a good core group and like Sober Living, how like it could really turn around?
Yeah, but on the same end, dude, like, I've seen the best house in the world, like, a bad apple comes in, dog, and the whole thing just shakes and trembles. And I, like, how many beds you guys got now at Unplugged?
120.
Just Sober Living.
Beds, yeah.
That's incredible, dude. Yeah, I told you, dude, I was proud of you. Like, when I met you a couple years ago, you were like, yeah, just kind of getting into the world. And now you're just out here slaying it. And, but yeah, man, like, you guys know, like, one bad apple can just spoil the bunch.
Right. And so you got into the treatment space and like through CSL and helping them launch their it's an outpatient clinic or residential?
So recovery syndicate. It's
recovery syndicate. Okay. So you're there for all of that and you're kind of like building yourself into that career, and that's what afforded you the opportunity to then accept a position and move out to Ohio, correct? What were your first thoughts? Like when that opportunity came up and they were like, we need you to move out to Ohio.
Well, number one, my criminal record is still there. And I did not get sober to live in the hood again. So like, I had recently gotten separated, and I think my best friend and I, we went to like 4 different apartment buildings, and like, As much as I love apartment hunting, it is not a cheap venture. It's like $400 every time that you put in an application. You just sitting there hoping and praying. And like, I'm not even a felon, dog. It's just a big enough rap sheet of like stupid stuff where it's like theft of motor vehicle and like all of these other things.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah, you know.
A lot of motor vehicles and apartments.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
Those were my favorite things back then. Was apartment parking lots. But yeah, it just, I think we got denied 4 different times to the apartments that we wanted. And like finally I found this lady that like helps people with criminal records, and you just go and it's just drab and gross, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to live like that. And it's still $2,600 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment.
In Ohio?
No.
Oh, here.
No, here.
Here.
Oh, okay.
No, man. And like, it was just like a God opportunity. Like I woke up in the morning, I'd gotten denied for the 4th apartment that's like $1,200 in apartment fees. And my boss called me, he's like, hey dude, what do you think about Ohio? And I was like, I've never been to Ohio, I don't have any thoughts on it. And this was July 28th. August 4th, they flew me and my best friend out there to look for houses. And I landed, like drove across the country and was moved into my house by August 12th.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a 14-day span from the time they asked me. And they were like, it's now or never, buddy. Like, and I mean, like, look, dude, it has been devastating and mourning a loss of my community out here. My daughter lives here, so I haven't, like, fortunately, the mother of my daughter is cool enough to let me FaceTime with her every day. And I mean, we are in the middle of a custody case, but like, that's just kind of what it is. I had mentioned earlier, like, dude, we make plans and God laughs, right? Like, the first things I did when we got our house, by the way, 3-bedroom house, wonderful neighborhood. Like, it's such a cute little town. Like, it's surrounded by a river and forests. And even like, there's a police station, a Dollar General, a post office, and 4 churches. There's not a bar, there's not a restaurant. Like every house is decorated to the nines for Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving, and even the police station has like a big Christmas tree in like the lobby. But I think it's $1,200 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. My coworker just bought a house for $25,000. A 3-bedroom house, he bought it. I mean, it's a bando.
Yeah.
But he's like, dude, 10 grand sunk into that sucker. What's a 30-year mortgage on $35K?
Yeah.
Like, less than my car insurance.
Well, that's incredible, man. And when you're preparing to move out there, like, you work a 12-step program, like you have, you know, I imagine like your sponsor, just like the friends that you made in the recovery community, like the life that you built is all out here, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you prepare yourself to move out to a whole nother area that you'd never been before? How did you prepare yourself in your recovery so that you could maintain your sobriety and like keep doing the things that you need to do?
I mean, look, dude, like with technology and apps, and even in BFE Ohio, dude, that meeting guide app works, right? Like, and I mean, as I've worked in the community, you quickly find out like what meetings are good, what meetings are bad. Like the difficulty that I found, right, is there is 5 treatment centers with probably 600 beds within a 5-mile radius of us, and we do about 150 admissions a month. So most of the people in the local sober living communities are people that I've met in the facility. With that being said, like, I can't walk into a meeting within 20 miles and not be like, oh, hey. Which I really don't mind. Like, I that was one of the things I always loved about being in sober living, is like I just knew everybody and like the connection that you make. I think it's a little bit different when you're in a position of supervision,
right?
And like running in, like you can't be friends with the patients when you're
HIPAA.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they can come up to me, but I'll be like, oh,
fist bump.
And the AA out is very different out there, right? Like they don't swear at all.
Wow.
All of the speakers dress to the nines.
Really?
Like I got invited to speak at this meeting called the Hot Dog Meeting, and I got done, and one of the old timers came up and he's like, "It was hard to hear your message between the profanity," and I was like, "Oh." That was the first thing he said to me, and I was like, "Well, I'm glad that I was here to speak to the newcomer."
Yeah, I wasn't here for you.
I didn't say it quite like that, but that was.
You were probably a little more relatable to somebody just coming out of treatment.
But like everybody that like. But I don't just talk about recovery, right? Like I talk about abuse as a kid or like trauma or like sexual assault, like the things that most men are unwilling to talk about, especially in a public forum. Like those are like, because I remember I went to a Cocaine Anonymous convention and they played that game, Love Thy Neighbor. And like one of the people, there's 80 of us between the ages of 18 and probably 40. And the dude in the center is like, "I love thy neighbor, especially thy neighbor that was molested by a family member." And 3/4 of the room stood up and ran. Like, to understand how not alone we are in some of our deepest and darkest secrets is incredible.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the reasons why we hide from those dirty secrets is that we feel terminally unique.
Right.
And we're not.
Yeah, dude, and that's incredible that you touched on that, because I've been to some meetings in some different states and stuff, like when I've been traveling around, and it's like, it's funny because it's like, it's all the same. I mean, like some of the processes, and it may look a little different, but it's like the message is always the same. They read the same book, they work the same steps, and it's like, it's not as daunting as you think to just like kind of like just go somewhere, walk into a 12-step meeting. It's like you're going to like immediately have at least some sort of baseline connection with everybody in the room, because it's like you've worked the same steps, like you've had the same experience. You both moved literally across the country to go to treatment, or in your circumstance just to continue being a dirtbag and then you found God. Yeah. But it's like, that's a big decision to just like uproot your life, move to a completely new area, and then you add on the extra step of like getting sober and like trying to like live in recovery. That's a lot, right? And it's like with the treatment center, a lot of people come from out of state, right? That's a big decision to make, right? And there's a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of like what if situations going through your head before you get on that plane and actually commit. I mean, why don't you both touch on what your experience was like making the decision to just move to Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, making a decision to move to Arizona wasn't so much of my decision. I would have stayed in Minnesota.
We call that a non-consensual move.
It was 100% a non-consensual move.
He was voluntold.
Yeah, it was definitely trying to placate the people around me, and also the other position of that is being out of options. You know, if I would have had more options to continue running and gunning, I definitely would have done that up there, but as a manipulation tactic and to placate those around me, thinking, all right, I'll just go do this, and then I will come back to my old life and everybody will be good and they'll be happy I went to treatment and hopefully I'll be fixed. And that was also not the case for me. I think it was great to uproot my life and be in Arizona. I mean, obviously, right, we have our plans, like you said, and God laughs at them. My plan was to come down here for like a month, maybe 2, and then head right back up to Minnesota and get back to it. And that isn't the way that it worked out for me. I did not get it the first time. I, went through the cycle quite a few times actually, and which led to homelessness in Arizona, and also being a Minnesota boy, like I was not built for that heat. I think I made it like a month, so I didn't make it quite too much longer than you did, but it takes a toll on you. You're emaciated, you're malnourished, you're all of the above, and the heat can just make you crazy. But I think it was the best thing for me to be out here in Arizona, which is such a strong recovery community, and for me to not know other people, my old habits, my old behaviors, who I could bum from, who I could manipulate, those types of things. And I had to be thrown into a new situation to find myself down here in Arizona. And I was able to take, which I'm super interested to hear your take on this, but how I was able to take this life experience, which wasn't all bad, right? Like it wasn't a scumbag my entire life. There were definitely things that I did that were good in there, but I had a lot of bad behaviors or a lot of things that I did the wrong way for, selfish reasons, because obviously that's the root of all my trouble. But how did you take some of those soft skills that you had learned throughout the way, and then, you kind of got that opportunity where someone believed in you while you were here, and then you, which me was probably my job at GoDaddy. I had this job and I was able to take these skill set and I was able to refine it while now also working a program, so I learned how to be less selfish with these skills and refine it even more. And then, the business takes off, or I start the business and that. But in your case, tell me about how, Bob and Christine believing in you and seeing something in you that you didn't see yourself, but then you start seeing that, hey, I have this wide range of skills that I can use for good rather than just to mess up my life and everybody's lives around me. But using that to slowly build and now have a kid, and then have an opportunity where someone who came out and who ended up homeless, who went to treatment, then is a house manager opening a house and then gets to work in treatment, now having a company that believes you in enough that says, hey, I will pay to fly you across the country because I know you're that good at what you do for this crazy opportunity. Tell me about some of that progression.
Okay. I think one of the best lessons that I've learned about myself is that obsession and hard work will beat skill set 10 times out of 10. If I am even delusional enough in my obsession, I will never fail. At the end of the day. Obviously I don't think any of us have ever attempted something that just succeeded, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's probably one of the greatest lessons that I've learned about myself is when I am determined, I can make it happen. I just learned how to use that drive in a positive fashion. Because I don't think even in my addiction I ever put my mind to something and didn't make it happen. And then I think that's a powerful force to be reckoned with, and I think that a lot of us have it. It's just, have we unlocked it? So I'm going to say that when I came into recovery, man, I had the ideas and the concepts of make your bed and do the dishes, and I think that's really where it started. Was accountability and in teaching me that it's okay to not know. I don't always need the answer. There's always somebody that I can reach out to find out and learn. So staying teachable has been a huge part for me, which is really hard for a prideful, selfish, egotistical human being. And there's still times when people try to tell me something, I'm like, shut the I don't want to hear it. But then in hindsight, I'm like, damn dude, that was a learning opportunity that I failed on. So I consistently try to keep my mind open to that. I would say that those are the main things that I've learned in recovery that I did truly learn from Bob and Christine. And having faith in myself is so important. It needs to be having faith in God and then having faith in myself. Because even just this week, dude, the mediation did not go the way that I wanted. And instead of getting mad and upset about it, the mediator's I'd understand if you're really angry. I was well, my heart's racing, but I get to go pick up my daughter, so everything's okay. The finances don't matter, dude. Waking up in the morning with her, cuddled up to that is the only thing that I care about. And that's the only reason why I moved across the country. It was supposed to put me in a financial position to save money, to start a Roth IRA for my daughter and one for myself, so that way when she's 18 and when she's she's just set. I think that's the idea of sobriety, right? Is I always had a hard time when I came into AA, because there's always those guys that sit in the corner and they're at every damn meeting. From 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, he's sitting in that same chair, spitting the same thing, or And I was like, dude, that terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like that is like that sounds like a horrible existence. And like, if he's happy, it doesn't matter what I think. I just know it's not for me. Like, I got sober to live my life to the fullest ability. Like, I want to be the most, dangerous might even be a good word for it. I want to be dangerous physically. I want to be dangerous spiritually. I want to be dangerous financially. I just want to be able to be a power in my own world and be able to give God that thanks.
I went through a similar period where I would go into rooms and I would see that same guy.
Yeah.
And I would just judge so hard. Oh,
yeah.
I'm never gonna be you. If this is your life, why did you even get sober?
Yeah.
So you could just sit in this room and like
But
scream your thing and feel good about yourself, right? And think. And then I had a sponsor who made me reread the actor scenario, and really made me understand maybe that's his part.
Yeah.
Maybe his part in the play is that newcomer to come in and say, hey, like, this is more what I want to be, or look at how happy this guy is. Or someone like me to come in and say, hey, like, this is great, but there's got to be more to this, and it drives me in a different direction. But rather than having that place of judgment on this guy, because I did it all the time, I was just like, okay, cool, you're 18 years sober, but you're coming here 5 times a day, and
I'm thinking about the guys that are like 50 years sober.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like wherever they're at, and they stand up to say their date, and they're so proud of it, and all that type of stuff. But like, what life outside of here are you really living? And then I realized, like, there's people like that maybe that one guy comes in and they plant a seed, or you have a guy, you know, who comes every day, like myself, and is just like, well, that's not what I want to be, but there's got to be something more, and it pushes you in a direction. So then I start being able to look at it of, that's the part in the play that he is supposed to have. So like, who am I? You know, and it just does that perspective thing. But I can relate to, because there was a long time where I was just like, well, this is what sobriety looks like. Like, I want nothing.
It scared me. Yeah. And then, but then there was people like Bob and Christine and like Eric Owens and like some of these other guys, and like they are living life. Like, you know, like, but AA is at the center.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having Alcoholics Anonymous being my life and it being at the center of my life. Just like God is supposed to be at the center of my life, but God is all of my life. I can't allow AA to be all of my life. There's only one thing that can be all of my life.
No, that's really good, man. And we appreciate you guys kind of touching on that, because I think that's something that goes through a lot of people's heads, and then it's almost like a stigma that you just want to talk about and share different personal experiences from. I've got 2 questions for each of you here for this last part of the episode that are more or less just speaking to someone who's going through a situation where either they're moving to somewhere to go to treatment, or they've built a recovery community, but an opportunity is taking them somewhere else, and maybe there's a little anxiety about what that looks like. Okay, so first question, we'll go to Will. And these are all like pieces of advice type questions.
Okay.
You know, so it's just
my experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you before you moved to Ohio?
Before I moved to Ohio, I don't really have a good answer for that. I got a lot of good advice.
Share some with us.
I mean, Bob told me he'd kick my ass if I didn't go to a meeting the first day that I got there. He told me that I needed to find a new sponsor, which I have not done, but I am in daily communication with my current sponsor. I'm actually having dinner with him and his wife tomorrow night while I'm in town. He told me to find my group, and there is a meeting that's just about an hour from my house that I really, really enjoy. It's very similar to like the Scottsdale Fellowship type crowd. He told me, find my people. That was the goal. And find healthy hobbies so I don't revert back to bad behaviors. So I mean, it's been a lot of time in the gym. I spend a lot of time at work, and I go to AA. I try to go once a week. I'm not going to say that I do, but I try.
You got a nice tan going.
Yeah, that's part of the gym. The only way you get vitamin D in that state is in a tanning bed.
I was like, there's a lot of sun in Ohio, apparently.
None at all.
Okay, well, thank you. Wade, what did you do to stay positive and motivated during difficult moments when you first came to Arizona?
Read the question again.
What were some things that you did to stay positive and motivated during some difficult moments when you first moved out here? Maybe to put some more context, where maybe you hadn't established your tribe yet, your people. You haven't gotten the good job at GoDaddy yet, so things haven't started going your way. What were some things that you did to stay positive and motivated in those situations?
I think still the same thing that I do to this day is, I listen to a lot of positive stuff on YouTube. That's something that has been engraved into me. Earlier than that, I love watching positive things, motivational things. What I do realize and understand is motivation can only take you so far, and there's lots of times where you don't feel like doing stuff that you just have to do it. And then I think the biggest thing in any of those situations was the innate ability, just like you had said, when you had got the call July 28th, flew out there the 4th, drove across the country, and then drove back on the 12th, is for me to, speak to some people around me that I trust, but then just do it. Just act.
Just do it.
Because for me, if I sit in this period of, well, is now the right time, or I can think myself into or think myself out of the best and worst things for myself. When I know that I'm in a situation where I, have a relationship with God and I feel okay, and I know that I just act, I know that I'm going to be protected. So I can get through, whether it was the wrong decision, I can make an adjustment, or if it's the right decision, I can keep heading in that direction, but I'm never going to know if I don't find out. And so it was just keeping a hope that things can always get better, and I continue that hope today that things can continually improve and get better. And am I improving my life to be a better person to the people around me? Am I improving my life to be a better person for me and for God? And then just simply acting and trusting the process, because I know if I sit and be like, things are never going to get better, or I'm just a screw up, and I'm never going to figure my way out of this, or I went here and now I'm in this mediation and things aren't going my way, whatever that looks like, I know if I sit and wallow in that, things are never going to get better for me. So it's always been just coming from this place of things can get better. I just need to act. I need to, consult with people I trust that are around me that are smarter than me and probably have been through similar situations, and then put one foot in front of the other, and it generally always works itself out.
Yeah. What a great piece of advice. I think it's funny because they're always like, the best time to start something was a year ago. Second best time is right now. But we sometimes get into analysis paralysis. That's what they call it, right? And it's like we want to wait for everything to be perfect. But it's like, is there ever a perfect time to do anything?
I mean, indecision is the killer of opportunities.
Yeah. Wow, that was really good advice, man. Well, what strategies would you recommend for someone maintaining balance during a big life change?
That's the funniest question I've ever heard in my life. I mean, balance, man. I don't think any of us are ever been good at that. There's always just something, and
it's the addict, all or nothing type.
Yeah,
thing.
man.
Yeah.
And I mean, my life is not balanced at all right now. I actually shouldn't say that, because my spirituality is very strong at the moment. I've been talking to God daily. And I want to touch on what you said, right, is that third step of, when we first get here, it's just about not being an asshole anymore. And at a certain point, it's about what am I bringing into the stream of life of others. That's the key, is others. Not about what I'm doing for me, but what am I doing for the stranger? Am I smiling so that way they might have a better day? Mm-hmm. Am I just being kind just to be kind? Am I holding the door for congratulations, or am I holding the door to be a good guy? I think that has been huge for me lately in terms of the balance, is reminding myself why I'm doing this, why I'm where I'm at, like why God decided to allow me to live the life that I'm living today rather than the life that I should have been living.
Right. And I think there's a lot more balance to your life just based off the conversation that we've had on this episode that like I've observed, because I mean you do have a lot going on when it comes to, you have your work, right, that you are sinking a lot of time into, but you're also focusing on your own physical well-being, your spirituality, but then also your family component and making sure that you're present for those type of situations. So I think, you know, on the grand scheme of things, you do have a lot going on, and I think there's a little more balance there than you give. Yeah, I think there's a little more balance there than you give yourself credit for, you know. But that's really good, man. And then last question I have for Wade: is there anything that you would do differently, and if you had to move down to Arizona for the first time again to get sober?
Yeah, is I wouldn't have these plans and designs when I'm moving down of like, just like I had in my entire addiction, is I have, you know, by this time I'm gonna stop doing dope, and by this time I'm gonna buy a house, and by this time I'm gonna do this, and like all it does is it sets me up for failure. So I move down here and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to treatment, and then I'm gonna go to sober living for 1 month, and then I'm gonna work my way back up to Minnesota, then I'm gonna get this great job, and then I'm gonna win this person back, and then I'm gonna do this. And like my plans just get blown up, and they get blown up appropriately because I'm not supposed to be working Wade's plan. I'm supposed to be working a different plan. And when I stay closer to that plan, things just work out. When I press to get what I want, I get further away from what I want, and I'm miserable in the process. When I press to just be a better person and try to help other people around me, for some reason, all the stuff I want always gets taken care of. And that's a constant battle I still have to this day, right? Because it's hard to not say, well, I've been chasing this because this is what I want, and then it starts not going my way and you get frustrated, but then you realize when I just go back to what was working in the first place, everything else figures itself out. When it comes to like the balancing, man, like I agree with you. It's extremely tough. I like to look at it as I was so out of balance for a 15-year period of my life where like I was getting high and doing nothing. And if I want to live like the 1%, I have to work like the 1%, right? Like I'm not going to have balance right now. I can have balance later in life, but like right now, if I want that life and I want to create a life so everybody around me's life is better, I have to press on, and I'm okay with that. And people, I get it, if you're happy and you have more of a work-life balance and like that's what you want, great. I'm not ever going to be the arbiter of somebody's happiness and tell you what you need to do or anything like that. But when I know it comes to me personally, when I hear people say, you need more balance, you need to take more personal time, or you need to do this, I don't even hear it because it's just not who I am. And I just don't relate to that period right now in my life. And I think that's okay because that's where I'm at. You know, just like wherever they're at is okay. And I can love them from there, and I hope they love me for me. But yeah, man, like I understand it exactly what you're going through. And it's like, hey, like I'm juggling all these things. Sometimes it feels like I have all these spinning plates and you're trying to keep them all up, and it can be a little frustrating at times. But I signed up for this.
Yeah, I've never met a successful business owner that doesn't run on that type of anxiety and fear. Yeah, it's just what it is.
Is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you want to touch on? I always like to, give people, say if it's a 5-minute monologue or anything that you see as a hard-hitting topic or anything that we didn't cover that you would like to touch on with your personal struggles, with anything that you're dealing with currently, anything like that.
I would like listeners, especially people that are new to the realm of recovery, right? Is like, I don't think I agree with you earlier, like I had a lot of really fun times. Even doing some of the like dirty moments, looking back, they're not bad memories. So it's unfair to me when people say, oh, life was just horrible. It really wasn't. Looking back at it now, the devastation that it caused for my family, the sleepless nights for my parents, the lack of true connection that I had to the people that loved me, outweigh the good memories. I think that's what it's a lot harder for younger people, especially, is like, well, what about when I get married? Or like, what about when my bestie gets married? Or the bachelor parties, or the strip clubs, or whatever the whatabouts are. Man, I've been to raves in sobriety. Like, I've been to concerts, like, I've like, pretty much anything, right? And I'll tell you what, dude, like, forcing myself out of my own discomfort box, because, like, when I'm drinking, I'm Rico Suave, but when I'm sober, I'm real timid on the dance floor. But, like, almost forcing yourself into that discomfort is its own form of, like, relief.
Dude, it's funny that you touched on that, because we said this is probably going on the 4th episode in a row where it somehow has come up where it's just like, and also here's your daily reminder that it's like anything that you when you become sober, you can do anything you used to do, just not while using drugs or drinking. It's not like you're just going to all of a sudden just not be able to do all of these other things.
But the memories are genuine.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the thing, is I want to tell the people new to recovery is, like, life is not boring for me. More opportunities and more experiences have been had in the last 7 years that I even could have put on pen and paper. Like, and I don't know, dude, like, just this world that opens up to you when you are open-minded and willing, and like you said, action, like, because I can be willing and motivated and dreaming from my beanbag all day long, dude, but until I get my ass to the grass and start working, like, nothing's gonna come to fruition.
Yeah, man, it's the life that you've always been searching for that you didn't even know you wanted.
Yeah. And I think some people get it twisted, right? It's like, dude, I turned into an adult at 25 years old. Like, I got my first job, like, that wasn't bar backing or dishwashing at 25 years old. And so, like, for a lot of people where their life starts at 18, like, they go to college and they do all of the American dream things or whatever the cookie cutter lifestyle is. And oddly enough, a lot of those guys are the ones that become alcoholic at 45 years old. We just had the opportunity to burn it down before we gained anything.
Yeah.
So now we're at the point of life where, like, we burned everything to the ground and we just started fresh. And I don't know which one I'd rather. And one of the things you asked him earlier, you said, would you change anything? And I don't think so. My mom has said to me, because we make amends often, every time she sees me, and pretty much she like, her and I, like, sit and talk about it, and she's like, I wish I would have been a better mom. And I was like, Mom, there's nothing that you could have done. Nothing. I had to experience every low, every high, every crime, every trauma to become the human that I am today, and to be able to reach people the way that I'm able to, like, pry into their soul. And vice versa. Like, I had to go through those things to be the man that I am today, and, like, I wouldn't change any of it. Like, even your experience of coming down here and getting homeless, and like you wouldn't have ever known. Like, that's part of the thing that still messes with me to this day. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to go back again.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll tell you what, juice just isn't worth the squeeze at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better.
No, those couple hours of fleeting moments of drunkenness, like, it is just like, I'd rather just raw dog life.
I joke about it all the time, man. I'm like, dude, I have these dreams every time when I was, like, in that phase, or I'd get that phase where I'd get a couple months and, you know, whatever. And it was always like, I would have this vision or the delusion that my relapse looked like Molly at Coachella.
That's not.
But, like, my reality every single time was fentanyl at Motel 6. Even though, like, my vision was Molly at Coachella with this relapse. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna go to Coachella, we're gonna listen to music, and I'm gonna vibe. But, like, my reality was a power nod at Motel 6 every single time. You know? But, like, that delusion can drag you out. It
With your $100 paycheck from Arby's.
And then it's gone, you know? So no, it's just funny to touch on that, because I always say that when I go talk at rehabs. I'm like, this is what I thought it was gonna be. Even though I knew this was my reality.
Delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
To this day, man, I'm still delusional.
That's awesome, dude. Well, we appreciate you stopping by, bro.
Thank you.
Honestly, we're glad that we're able to sit down and chat it up with you. Before we end the episode, just in the spirit of gratitude, is there anything that anybody you'd like to thank for your journey, or just express some gratitude before we wrap up here?
Honestly, anybody. Sponsees, sponsors, people I've just met in passing. Life would be dull without all of the people that are in this world. Their unique personalities, and whether you get on my nerves or not, like, it's just a part of the human experience, and I'm grateful for that, truly. My mom, my dad, biggest supporters in this world. Yeah, man, on Monday I had like 25 family members all praying, you know, and it just went as God wanted to saw fit, so it's just part of the plan. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool, brother.
Thank you guys for having me on today.
Yeah,
It's
man.
good to meet you. Or good to see you
Good
again.
to
It's
see
good to meet you officially.
Yeah.
I follow you on social media, man. You and your runs and
Yeah.
like
Dude,
just
it's
crazy
funny.
bastard.
I've had that quite frequently lately, where people are like, we kind of like have an idea of you based off of like your presence on social media, but it's just like
I went from like smashing ridiculous amounts of like chicken McNuggets to like I'm going on a 6 mile run today.
He went through this phase when I had like first met him, probably like 6 months into meeting him, where he just turned into an animal and just started like running 5 miles to a meeting, you know, out of nowhere. I mean, from one day to the next. And to see this like come full circle and it happen, he's usually in a pretty good place.
Okay.
And so now I just keep saying, I wish he could make as cool of videos on his runs as he does on a daily basis for Plugged In Recovery. We have way more content.
I'm still finding the balance. I'm still finding the balance, dude.
I'm like, dang, he can make this awesome running video. It'd be super cool if we could make a sweet TikTok today, you know?
Yeah, no, we're still finding the balance, dude. But we are putting out content, dude, and you know, it's all part of the journey. We are going to have exclusive footage of Wade attempting to run 6 miles in a couple of weeks, and we are so excited for that. He has this idea on the spirit of, oh, your plans just blow up right in front of you. He's got a plan that he is going to let us get ahead of him and then just somehow miraculously run the rest of the race. False, dude. We're gonna have the DJI Osmo with us, and we're gonna be documenting the entire journey of Wade Mulhauser attempting to run 6.2 miles, and that is going to be on February 8th, dude.
I'm
We're
gonna cheat,
pumped
dude.
for
I'm
that.
gonna track you down.
Yeah, we're pumped for it. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
guys. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week.